During a hunting trip, an unexpected horror struck the boy. Out of nowhere, a gigantic lion appeared right before his eyes. Realizing the threat, he quickly shielded his younger brother behind him. The beast was too mighty. He knew even if he pulled the trigger, a single bullet wouldn't bring it down. At that tense moment, Sergei did something unthinkable. He lowered his gun, attempting to show the king of the wild that he bore no hostility. To his astonishment, the ferocious glare in the lion's eyes slowly began to ease. But the fragile calm shattered instantly when a gunshot rang out. The one who fired was none other than Sergei's father, Nikolai. Unfortunately, the shot failed to kill. Enraged, the lion lunged at Sergei, its razor-sharp fangs tearing into his flesh. Nikolai fired in desperation, but the beast carried Sergei away. He believed his son had no hope of survival. Yet destiny intervened. The lion's blood seeped into Sergei's wounds, sparking a bizarre reaction deep within his body. Almost as if two worlds had fused, his genes intertwined with that of the predator. The lion sensed the change, released Sergei, and walked away. Against all odds, Sergei lived. But instead of relief, Nikolai's eyes carried nothing but contempt. A notorious underworld figure, he couldn't accept what he saw as weakness. He demanded that Sergei embrace the ruthless instincts of a wolf, warning him about the merciless laws of survival and pressing him to inherit the family empire. Sergei, trapped by fear and sorrow, dared not oppose him. Yet when he saw the lifeless body of the lion stuffed for display, a storm raged inside him. Retreating to his room, Sergei swore he would never become the heartless beast his father wanted. His mother had already ended her life after years of abuse, and that grief fueled his resolve. He decided to abandon this poisoned household once and for all. Before leaving, he took out a mysterious card that held personal meaning. As he carefully stepped onto the roof to escape, the tiles broke beneath his feet. He braced for a deadly fall, but instead he landed softly as if carried by the wind. Sergei couldn't comprehend what just happened. With no time to dwell, he set out for his mother's hometown, a vast open grassland in Russia's far east. Surrounded by nature's beauty, a terrifying rumble suddenly broke the silence. From the horizon, a colossal herd of buffalo thundered toward him. There was no shelter, no escape. Even a lion would have fled before such force. Covering his ears, he prepared for death. Yet, shockingly, the herd split into two streams, rushing past him without touching him. The lead buffalo even shielded him with its massive body. When the dust finally cleared, Sergei realized the impossible. These animals recognized him. From that day, Sergei discovered his extraordinary abilities. He could sense and commune with creatures. His body surpassed human limits. A single throw of a spear traveled beyond 100 meters. His speed rivaled the fastest hunters of the wild. With ease, he could outpace deer or leap incredible heights with a mere push. His hearing grew so sharp he could count droplets in a flowing stream. But his awakening came at a cost. A sudden gunshot echoed through the canyon. Sergei scaled a towering tree and spotted poachers nearly a kilometer away. He rushed to stop them, but tragedy had already struck. Dozens of buffalo lay lifeless. Rage consumed him. Before he could react, the armed men confronted him, ordering him to leave. Their words ignited the beast within. He picked up a blade from the ground and attacked with primal ferocity. The poachers stood no chance against his raw power. Gazing at the fallen animals, Sergei vowed silently he would protect them, whatever it took. 16 years passed. Sergei had become a legend whispered in the shadows. Now known as Kraven, one of Marvel's deadliest hunters, his name spread terror in the underworld. Once a target entered Kraven's list, there was no return. To approach his latest prey, he disguised himself as an inmate and willingly entered prison. But the moment he stepped inside, he froze. His cellmate radiated the aura of danger. To avoid unnecessary conflict, Kraven proposed a wager. Within 3 days, he promised, he'd walk free. If not, his cellmate could do whatever he pleased with him. Intrigued, the men accepted with a sly grin. The next day in the yard, two foolish thugs confronted him, claiming everything belonged to their boss, Semyon, and threatening to put the newcomer in his place. They had no idea who they were dealing with. With minimal effort, Kraven lifted both men as if they were weightless. Guards rushed in before he could go further. Soon after, Kraven was escorted to meet the prison kingpin. But Kraven had been expecting this. This was the very reason he had come here. The guards led him inside the kingpin's chamber, but Kraven showed no fear. He had already memorized every detail about the men awaiting him. The moment the guards loosened their guard, Kraven unleashed his fury. Before the bodyguards could even react, they were lying unconscious on the floor. Semyon sensed the looming danger, but it was already too late. The uproar immediately drew the attention of the prison officers. Yet Kraven had already seized his prey. With monstrous strength, he hurled Semyon off the upper floor. Scaling the walls like a lizard, he ripped open the exit, sounding the prison alarms across the compound. Chaos erupted everywhere, but weapons were useless against his sheer speed and power. Within a minute, Kraven broke through the final barrier and vanished into the storm outside. But what awaited him beyond the walls was far more dangerous. A furious blizzard engulfed him, and he lost all sense of direction in the blinding snow. In that icy wasteland, a predatory presence crept close. A tundra wolf emerged from the storm. Kraven extended his mind, and instantly, the beast calmed. Following its guidance, he reached his extraction team. To erase every trace, he wiped away his tattoos and staged his own death, leaving behind a mutilated corpse devoured by wolves. Having accomplished his mission, Kraven returned to the grasslands. But what he saw filled him with rage, poachers slaughtering herds of buffalo without mercy. He lay in wait until their convoy passed. Believing they could easily handle him, they underestimated their opponent. Kraven attacked like a whirlwind of claws and steel, wiping out an entire truckload of men within seconds. Their leader panicked, fleeing the scene in a pickup truck. But Kraven wasn't about to let him escape. He memorized the license plate before fading into the night. The terrified survivor reported back to his boss. But just as he finished, a crossbow bolt pierced his skull. Kraven crossed the name off his list and shut the door behind him. Guided by scent and instinct, he tracked down a woman, Calypso. Pulling out a card he had cherished for years, he revealed his identity. Shock spread across her face. She realized Kraven was the same boy from long ago. Back then, when the lion carried Sergei away, Calypso and her family were traveling nearby. The card she possessed had been given by her grandmother after a fortune reading, a charm said to guard against danger. Alongside it, her grandmother passed down an ancient elixir preserved by the family for generations. That day, fate brought them together. The lion spared the child, and when its gaze met Calypso's, there was even a glimmer of pleading in its eyes. She gave Sergei the elixir and left him with the card, praying it would protect him. Doctors fought to save Sergei's life, but his injuries were catastrophic. Declared clinically dead, he was moments away from being disconnected from the machines. Then, miraculously, his heart began to beat again. This mystery haunted Sergei for years. For 16 long years, he searched ceaselessly, until he finally found Calypso once more. By now, Calypso had built a new life as a renowned lawyer in London. Yet tragedy had struck her too. Her mentor was murdered while handling a dangerous case. Kraven quietly told her she need not seek justice, for he had already avenged her. The killer was none other than Semyon, the men from the prison. Calypso, shaken, confirmed later that Semyon had indeed perished behind bars. Though she admitted the men deserved his fate, she could not condone Kraven's ruthless methods. To her, repayment through bloodshed was no repayment at all. Neither of them knew that elsewhere, Semyon's death had already reached the ears of Rhino. Once a minor thug in Nikolai's empire, Rhino had grown dangerously ambitious. Seizing the opportunity, he arranged a meeting with Omer, Semyon's former lieutenant, hoping to bring him into his fold. At first glance, Omer was refined and cultured, hardly resembling a feared gangster, but Rhino wasted no time revealing his true nature. Disconnecting a strange hose attached to his body, his skin began to mutate and harden. Omer's men opened fire in panic, riddling him with bullets. Yet Rhino rose from the ground unfazed, plucking the rounds from his hardened flesh. Once he reconnected the hose, his body returned to normal. The terrifying display left Omer no choice. He agreed to join forces. Omer then arranged an introduction with Nikolai himself. Nikolai, feigning sorrow for Semyon's death, extended an offer of shelter, hoping to absorb the men into his power. But his instincts quickly sensed betrayal. In a flash, assassins sent by Rhino launched their ambush. Fortunately, Nikolai had foreseen treachery. He fought back with brutal efficiency. But his younger son, Dmitri, crumbled in fear, hiding while others bled. To Nikolai, this cowardice was unacceptable. He expected his sons to stand tall, not hide like prey in the shadows. News of the failed hit reached Rhino. Though enraged, he wasn't shocked. Nikolai was a formidable force. Yet Rhino soon received something far more valuable, a USB drive containing footage of Kraven's prison escape. Realizing the legendary hunter was Nikolai's own son left him stunned. If the father and son reconciled, the underworld would drown in blood. Determined to prevent it, Rhino dispatched a terrifying assassin known only as the Foreigner. With a single gaze, he could plunge anyone into hypnosis without fail. Meanwhile, Kraven had no idea danger was already closing in. Wishing to surprise his brother on his birthday, he scaled a skyscraper barehanded, slipping past every camera in his father's surveillance network. For the first time in years, he reunited with Dmitri. On that fateful night when Kraven fled home, Dmitri had begged to go with him, but Kraven refused. Ever since, Dmitri bore the brunt of their father's wrath. Kraven's heart ached with guilt. He could see how deeply Nikolai had crushed his younger brother's spirit. Though Dmitri longed for approval, Kraven saw their father for what he truly was, a soulless tyrant. He urged his brother to stay away from the men, but their father appeared before he could say more. To avoid ruining Dmitri's celebration, Kraven swallowed his anger and forced a smile. That night, he sat alone in the park, silent under the stars. The following morning, intending to bid farewell, Kraven returned, only to find the room ransacked and Dmitri gone. A patch of blood on the bedsheet was the only trace. He sprinted to the balcony and glimpsed his brother being forced into a car. Without hesitation, Kraven leapt down from the building. Heights meant nothing to him, but even with his beastly speed, he was a step too late. The kidnappers had already vanished into the city. Kraven refused to surrender. With beast-like reflexes, he sprinted after the kidnappers. His strength surged as he rammed into their speeding car, leaping onto it with raw force. He tried smashing the glass to reach his brother, but the car's velocity threw him aside. The abductors sped off with Dmitri toward a hidden dock. Yet Kraven was never too far behind. Before the helicopter could ascend, he hurled a rope around its frame, holding it down with brute power. When gunfire erupted, he dodged, struck back with a steel pipe, and neutralized the shooter. The craft broke free, dragging him across the water until a buoy tore him off. Helpless, he watched his brother taken away. With no choice, he turned to Calypso, but finding answers would take time. Seeking his father instead, he discovered Nikolai already knew. A severed finger arrived with a $20 million demand. For Nikolai, feared mob boss of New York, paying ransom was weakness. Reputation mattered more than life, and he believed they wouldn't release Dmitri even if paid. Kraven's last hope shattered. Watching his father abandon his brother, he realized the rescue rested solely on his shoulders. Soon Calypso's lead surfaced, though betrayal followed quickly. Their contact had switched sides, only to be silenced by his own employers. The base was hidden along sheer cliffs, but Kraven scaled them with animal precision. Blades flew, guards fell, silence ruled until an alarm broke loose. Gunfire ended in seconds as Kraven cut down the opposition. Their leader Omer fell under his charge, but before answers came, a rocket struck. The blast hurled them both off the cliff in chaos. Buried under debris, Kraven survived, springing back to end his enemies. Meanwhile, Dmitri faced Rhino. To his shock, Rhino spared him, seeing himself in the neglected boy. He revealed the torment of experiments that forged his monstrous power. Craving respect through strength, Rhino invited Dmitri to embrace the same path and seize Nikolai's empire. But then the foreigner arrived, weaving illusions with a glance. He exposed Kraven's one weakness, his brother, and hinted at tracking him with a Siberian plant. Kraven, fearing for Calypso, hid her in Siberia among his herbs and research. He sought the lost elixir recipe that once saved him, but it was gone. The foreigner and Rhino soon brought a new poison, one that killed through fear and nightmares. Yet their pursuit met wild resistance, a cheetah in the woods, chaos in the jungle, and Kraven's deadly traps. One by one, Rhino's men fell until desperation called for bombs. But Kraven was struck by a poisoned arrow. His mind drowned in visions as spiders closed in. The foreigner's voice taunted, breaking his will. Just as death loomed, Calypso's arrow pierced the foe, her elixir reviving Kraven's strength. Rhino, believing him dead, moved to retreat with Dmitri, but a thunderous stampede of buffalo stormed the plains. Cars crumpled, chaos reigned, and Rhino hardened his body for survival. Kraven clashed with him head-on. Rhino's brute force hurled him aside repeatedly, blows leaving him reeling. Yet Kraven spotted weakness. Driving a metal rod into it, he lashed Rhino with steel cable, tying him to the charging herd. Trampled and broken, Rhino's pride collapsed. But betrayal cut deeper. Nikolai had orchestrated everything, using Dmitri as bait. Kraven confronted him but couldn't pull the trigger. Moments later, fate answered with a bear's roar. 1 year later, Kraven returned for his brother's birthday, but the fragile boy he once knew was gone. Dmitri had claimed their father's empire, wearing power like a crown. Horrified, Kraven tried to reach him, only to discover the unthinkable. Dmitri had long joined the doctor's experiments, plotting in shadows. The timid child was gone, in his place stood a mastermind. Even Kraven himself had been nothing more than a pawn in his brother's grand design, one preparing to unleash a disaster the world had never seen. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.